huge thank you to Squarespace for supporting the channel and sponsoring today's video. Recently, the early Pokemon games have become a treasure trove of cut content. Thanks to various leaks, we've been able to learn a ton about content that was cut from Pokemon Red and Blue, Gold and Silver, and more, and this includes scrapped Pokemon designs. While we know about a bunch of cut Pokemon already, I thought it might be interesting to try and discover some more for ourselves. In multiple interviews, specifically concerning the Generation 1 games, Pokemon's art director, Ken Sugimori, has stated that anywhere from 75 to about 150 Pokemon were cut from Pokemon Red and Blue, and he even went on record saying that some of the Pokemon that were cut from Red and Blue were eventually used in the second generation in Gold and Silver. Additionally, back in 2018, another interview was conducted with some of Game Freak's original developers, and when speaking of the infamous cut Pikachu evolution, Gorochu, longtime developer Koji Nishino commented on why it was scrapped. He said that we had to save space by taking Pokemon originally designed to evolve twice and making them evolve only once. Pikachu was not one of the first 3 Pokemon, so it was an easy target for this kind of reduction. So basically, we know that there are plenty more cut Pokemon from Gen 1 that have yet to be identified, we know that they are capable of being reused in future generations and have been for sure in Gen 2, and we also know a specific kind of Pokemon that were targeted, being Pokemon that evolve only once that were originally going to evolve twice. This gives us some pretty good direction in terms of being able to possibly nail down what other Pokemon could have been scrapped from Gen 1 that we don't yet officially know about. So in today's video, we are going to be trying to identify some of these mysterious cut Pokemon based on this and other evidence, and I think I've found some very good candidates. So without further ado, let's take a look at what might have been in Pokemon Red and Blue. Starting off, one Pokemon that I think is very likely to have been planned for Gen 1 is Kingdra. For starters, it fits the claim that Sugimori made where he said that some of the cut Gen 1 Pokemon were used in Gen 2, and it also fits the claim that Pokemon who only evolve once in the final games were targeted in particular for the cuts, which falls in line with the Horsey family only having one evolution in Generation 1. So Kingdra is a pretty strong possibility already, but I think it might go even deeper than that. Horsey and Seadra are known as the dragon Pokemon, despite not being dragons at all. That is, until they evolve into Kingdra. The fact that they sort of seem to be mislabeled in this way in Gen 1 might be evidence that this is actually a leftover from when they were planned to evolve into Kingdra in Gen 1, before Kingdra was scrapped in order to save space in the game, like Nishino mentioned in the interview. Another one in this same vein that I also feel is very likely is a scrapped pre-evolution for Doduo. Now, while Doduo has never gained a pre-evolution, this isn't a Pokemon that we are speculating on in terms of its existence. In the 1997 Space World demo leak for Pokemon Gold and Silver, a scrapped pre-evolution for Doduo was leaked, confirming this was an actual Pokemon that was up for consideration. And while it might not have made it into Gen 2 or any other generation to this point, it was planned, which again falls in line with Sugimori's earlier statement about Pokemon from Gold and Silver. Additionally, it also falls in line with the Pokemon with one evolution originally having 2 idea that was also mentioned earlier. Finally, one more thing that I think makes this scrapped baby Doduo a strong possibility for Gen 1 is the fact that Doduo is a first stage Pokemon, yet begins as a duo, then evolves into a trio, so wouldn't it make more sense for it to have a pre-evolution that had just one head instead? Granted, the design of this baby Doduo that was scrapped weirdly has 3 heads, but this might have not been its first iteration, and in general, all things considered, I think it was likely planned for the Kanto games as well. Speaking of pre-evolutions, I also think some others could have been planned for the Gen 1 games as well, namely Klepha, Igglybuff, and Happini. The reason for these is the same as the others. They fall in line with the statements about 3-stage Pokemon being cut down to 2 stages, but then also being reused in future generations, with Klepha and Igglybuff in particular being included in Gen 2, just like Sugimori said was the case for some of Johto's Pokemon. However, there is one more thing that can strengthen the argument for these baby Pokemon possibly being planned for Kanto. In a leak of Pokemon Red and Green's beta that occurred a few years ago, some of the cut baby Pokemon that were revealed in Gold and Silver's leaked demo were also present in this Gen 1 beta, such as a baby Meowth, Goldeen, and Ponyta. So who's to say that Klepha, Igglybuff, and Happini weren't a part of this baby bunch as well, since there was clearly already a focus on baby forms at the time. Having to scrap so many Stage 1 Pokemon could have even also possibly influenced the concept of baby Pokemon in Gen 2, and were simply carried over from the cut content of the first game, just like Sugimori mentioned. Since we brought up Happini, I also have some more Sinnoh Pokemon I believe could have been considered for Kanto as well, namely Blissey, Leafeon, and Rhyperior. Now, these are all a little more speculative, but all make sense in their own way. With Blissey, it once again could have been one of those Gen 2 carryovers from Gen 1 that we have been talking about, and I think it is actually a little more likely than most, considering that Blissey doesn't really change a ton from Chansey, so because of that, as Nishino stated with Gorochu, it could have been an easy choice to be cut from Red and Blue when saving game space became necessary. It is also suspicious considering that Happini later got its debut in Gen 4. The fact that Chansey received 2 additional evolutions in multiple different generations after its introduction kinda makes me feel like it got those because those designs, Blissey and Happini, were already laying around the Game Freak offices from the days of Gen 1, and were simply revisited years later. Meanwhile, in Leafeon's case, I've brought this up before, so I'll make it brief, but there's a lot of circumstantial evidence that supports the presence of a grass-type evolution in Gen 1. First of all, the evolutionary stones that can be found in Celadon City in the department store, where you also obtain Eevee, can all evolve Eevee except for the Leaf Stone. Additionally, Celadon is a city with a grass-type gym leader who could have used said evolution, and if Leafeon were to be in Gen 1, it would have given Eevee an evolution for each one of the starter types, plus the honorary electric starter type, with Pikachu sort of being a pseudo-starter in Pokemon Yellow, and that just makes a lot of sense for a Pokemon like Eevee. We also know that Leafeon was planned for Gold and Silver as well, thanks to that demo leak, so it could have originally been planned as one of those Gen 1 carryover mons before it was cut from Gen 2 as well. Finally, when it comes to Rhyperior, it just kinda makes sense with the type of Pokemon that Rhyperior is. While it or the rest of its family don't have any connection to Gen 2 to go along with Sugimori's quote, Gen 4 is a generation where a lot of Pokemon that were planned for Gen 2, like Leafeon and even Tangrowth, finally made their official debut, so Sinnoh has a track record of reviving a lot of old Pokemon designs that were cut from previous generations. There is also the 3-stage family cut down to a 2-stage family factor that is consistent with Rhyperior and its pre-evolutions. And finally, Rhyperior is just kind of a Pokemon that didn't really need to exist. I'm not hating on it or anything, but Rhydon would have been fine if it had just stayed a final evolution, so this redundancy could have made it the perfect candidate as one of those 3-stage families to be cut down to 2 stages, and then for some reason, Game Freak just decided to bring it back in Generation 4. Continuing with Sinnoh, 2 more Pokemon I have to mention from this region as far as possibly being planned for Gen 1 are Driftloon and Magnezone. Now, unlike the others on this list, these 2 are not based entirely on theory and speculation. There are actually some cut Pokemon that we do know of that could be the source of these 2. Starting with Driftloon, it is a Pokemon that is obviously based on a balloon, and during Gen 1's development, there was a Pokemon that was based on a balloon as well. Its name is Barunda, and it got cut because Game Freak opted with Jigglypuff as Kanto's resident balloon Pokemon instead. And although Barunda and Driftloon don't really look anything alike, it's very possible that Barunda was reworked into Driftloon, considering their shared, unique inspiration. On the Magnezone side of things, there is also another confirmed scrapped Pokemon that could have been reworked into it as well. While it is not distinctly Magnezone, a 3rd cut stage to the Magnemite family was found in that aforementioned leak of Red and Green's beta, and while it's not known exactly what stage of this family this cut Pokemon was supposed to be, considering that it is a cut 3rd stage, it is very likely the reason why Magnezone came into existence in the first place, because it was a revival of that original idea from Generation 1. Going along with this idea of cut Pokemon from Gen 1 that we do know of, possibly being reworked into official Pokemon years later, we have Stantler. Stantler fits the bill of being a Gen 2 Pokemon, meaning it could have possibly been one of those carryovers that we've been mentioning. And while it doesn't have any evolutionary connection to any Kanto Pokemon, there is a cut Kanto Pokemon that could have been reworked into Stantler. In a biographical manga about Satoshi Tajiri and the creation of Pokemon, a scrapped deer Pokemon was revealed that was initially planned for the original Kanto games. It's commonly speculated that this deer Pokemon could have become Stantler for the reasons I've mentioned, but there isn't really any other connection between the 2 other than that they're both based on deer. So this one is a hard maybe, but if it did turn out to be true that this was the case, I would say that Stantler actually got a bit of a downgrade compared to the cut deer Pokemon, which is pretty unfortunate. Lastly, I have 2 more possible cut evolutions of Kanto Pokemon. The first one is a possible cut phiro evolution. Now, outside of the interview evidence I've already mentioned, there isn't really any other major evidence to support this, but there is some possible circumstantial evidence. Spearow and Phiro have always consistently been seen as a counterpart to the Pidgey family, and it seems like it was intended for that to be the case. So why exactly does Pidgey have 2 evolutions while Spearow only has 1? Could it be that a second evolution for the Spearow family was planned but scrapped in order to save space on the game's cartridge, like Koji Nishino mentioned? It would make sense, but we'll probably never know for sure unless we get to learn more about Kanto's cut content in the future. Moving along, the other Kanto evolution I have to discuss here is a possible cut pre-evolution to Nidoran. Not Nidorino or Nidorina, or Nidoking or Nidoqueen, I mean Nidoran, the first stage of this line. You might think that this would be impossible considering these Pokemon are both already a part of 3-stage families, but there is some evidence that warrants a discussion. In Did You Know Gaming's recent video about a Japanese-only Pokédex book that contains tons of lore and background about the Kanto Pokemon that was never published worldwide, it mentions how Nidoran actually have babies, and it shows these baby Nidoran in an illustration. Additionally, in the previously mentioned Red and Green beta leak, there is an additional scrapped stage of the Nidoran family. From its back sprite, which is all we have to work with, it resembles Nidoran male, but Nidoran male as well as the rest of both Nidoran families are present in the beta as well, meaning that it is a Pokemon separate from all of them. Could both Nidorans have been given a shared pre-evolution at some point during the development phase of these Pokemon? Maybe as sort of an experiment before the families were finalized the way we know today? Again, we might never know for sure, but this is definitely one mystery that I hope we get to learn the answer to someday. One thing that isn't a mystery, however, is how awesome Squarespace is, the sponsor of today's video. Squarespace is a powerful online platform where you can create your own website for absolutely anything you need. Once you've created a website, you can connect with your audience, generate revenue through gated members-only content. You can also manage your members, send email communications, leverage audience insights, and more, all on one easy-to-use platform. So go to squarespace.com for a free trial, and when you're ready to launch, go to squarespace.com/hoops to save 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain. So there you have it. Those are just a few Pokemon that could have possibly been cut from the Kanto games. What do you think though? Do you feel like I'm on the right track, or maybe you have some different ideas? Let me know in the comments below, and be sure to leave a like and subscribe if you enjoyed. Just to let you know, if you haven't heard as well, I'm also going to be giving away a copy of Pokemon Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl via my Spotify. For every 5,000 new listeners I can get on Spotify before the games come out, which is full of great Pokemon remixes by the way, including a brand new album I just dropped, I'm going to be giving away a copy of the games. So check out my Spotify if you're able to, cause it helps out the channel a bunch, and you could possibly win a free game at the same time. With that said, I will see you guys soon with another video, and until then, as always, I love you guys, thanks for watching, and I will smell you guys later.